broken hand and all. Jesus, color's all wrong. All wrong. I mean, he brings me in here. This is all wrong. This color palette's wrong. Nothing's right. Broken hand. I gotta fix it. Come on, Dennis. Really? I'll be here for hours.
So you got a busted wing.
Broken wing. Definitely.
What happened?
Overuse.
Overuse.
Actually, they really don't know what causes it. It could be overuse, the way I sleep, but I got, it's funny, I got back from the Bahamas. I filmed with Cameron. Kirk Connell, I got off the boat, and we had a grouper to fillet. I picked up a fillet knife, and I went to fillet a fish, and just had no strength in my thumb at all. I couldn't hold the knife to fillet. And I'm like,
were you like shaking?
No, my brain was telling it to do something, and just wasn't doing it. It was really weird. And I thought, well, maybe it was just the way I was holding the throttle, because it was a rough crossing back home, and, my wrist was cocked up, running the throttle the whole way. And I thought, well, maybe I just did something. And then I waited a couple weeks and didn't get better. And my hands, the muscles in my hands started atrophying. And I was like, whoa.
Come on. You must have been freaking out.
I was.
Oh, man.
And then I'm in jiu-jitsu, and I'm like, I can't grab onto anybody. I'm like, oh, man, this is not good. And picking up a cast net, trying to pull the rope in. I'm like, so went and saw the hand surgeon. He said, yeah, getting nerves, getting pinched in my elbow and getting pinched in my wrist. So,
it was a pinched nerve.
Yeah, they call it cubital tunnel in the elbow and carpal tunnel in the wrist. And then there's another spot over here that had released the ulnar nerve. So there's
more than one tunnel?
Yeah. Cubital tunnel, carpal tunnel.
Cubital
is your elbow. Yeah, it's the ulnar nerve.
Yeah, I'm learning about anatomy in this show.
There you go. Now you know.
We had Steve on last week, Steve Doherty, and he's telling me about how he busted his spleen, like stepping into a live well.
Ooh.
Twice.
Ooh.
Like, did the same tournament the next year, he did it again.
Jeez.
Yeah. And he was telling like how he gets like a pain in his shoulder.
Yep.
And then
deferred pain.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
now this isn't that bad. There was surgery last Thursday.
Yeah.
I'm probably off the water for, I don't know, 3 weeks to a month.
Ugh.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have a charter next week, but I'm going to have somebody mate for me. So I just drive the boat and back to filming in the Keys, like on the 14th. So
you start on the 14th?
Yeah, so 2 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away, I'll be back to filming. And
so season 2.
Season 2.
Nice. Season 1 was incredible.
Thank you.
I mean that. I'm not just saying because I was in it. But it was.
That one episode was awesome.
That one episode, did everyone see the Connected by Water episode? That one was incredible.
Yeah, no, it turned out better than I hoped it would, and the feedback was good, so I'm excited for 2020.
I was really amazed, and I'm still amazed to have been a part of it, not just because, it's a TV show, which is cool, but the way you guys put it together was just really, really amazing. Just the post-production of it, and just the filming, and and even being a part of it, and the way the guys handle everything. It was just cradle to grave, phenomenal.
Yeah, it's funny. We were so many times you go on these fishing shows and you worry about the fish, and we talked about that. I always say that it wasn't about the fish, and the show's really not about the fish. It's about telling a story, and you have a great story. So I knew that was going to be easy to tell. We just had to catch a couple fish in there, and then just intertwine that with everything that you do. And it's an interesting story, and it intrigued me. So I knew that other people would be, receptive to it as well and love it.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the reason why, we connected with it, I guess, for lack of a better term, so well, is because the whole theory of Connected by Water is a very similar thing, where it's more about what's behind the moment, or what led up to that moment, the people, and, just the attitude and the emotion that goes into everything. I think it's important because that's why you do it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's not just about, hey, trophy. It's about living that life, and, being in those moments and how they come about,
It's definitely not about the fish anymore. I tell people that. I think everybody's fishing evolves. I've talked about this before, where in the beginning it's all about holding a fish up and those pictures of the biggest fish and trying to capture the biggest fish, and then it just evolves. I think Now it's more about the experiences, about the memories, it's about the anticipation, the preparation. You know, it's about the friendships and that you develop along the way and the places that you go. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, for so many years doing this, that it was a job and didn't even have the time to enjoy it. You know, so I'm trying to do more of just taking the opportunity to really I'm at a great place, I'm with great people, and really not be so concerned about the production, but, you know, enjoy the moment, enjoy the time that I spend with people. You know, I'm surrounded with a great crew of producers and cameramen, and I've learned just let them do what they do best. Mm-hmm. I'll catch a couple fish, and, you know, it all comes together. It comes together well.
Yeah, that's great. You know, we've recently had that expansion here, too, at the studio where I have some assistants here, some people helping, and it's extremely valuable to be able to, like, let go.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard at first, you know, to be like, all right, you do that.
Yeah, you definitely can't be a micromanager in this kind of business, because it'll just drive yourself crazy. You know, It's amazing. I don't even see the finished product until it airs. Right. You know, usually they'll send me it, you know, as it goes to closed captioning, but I have no say in really what post-production looks like. And I like it that way. I'm just as excited to see it and just as shocked as you were to see the show. You know, I didn't know the direction that they were going, and it speaks volumes for colorblind media and what they do. But we've had a relationship for long enough that I know that I can trust them to put a high quality product out there that's going to tell the story the way that I want it told. You know, we have a very common thought process, and we share similarities of what we think looks good, and so it's been a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. I remember when, not to go back to my episode again, but
oh, you were on the show.
I was on one. Yeah,
it's on YouTube in case everyone wants to see it.
It's on YouTube. I'll send everyone the link personally. My partner actually had the whole season set to record. Once he found out that we were making an episode, he's like, "Let's record the whole season," and you know. It came out, and we were in iCast, and I was like, oh, no, you know, we're going to miss it. And he texted me. He's like, hey, I got your episode recorded. And I was like, yes. We had like a watch party over at his house and everything. And, you know, he was like, man, he's like, I couldn't help but watch it, you know, so I didn't wait for you. And he's like, oh, man, you're going to love it. George did you right and everything. You know, it was really, really, really great. So I was pretty stoked on it. So you're in season 2 now.
Yeah.
Are you able to talk about what episodes you have coming up or any kind of guests you have coming on?
Yeah, really. We're just getting started. I did one episode so far with Rufus Wakeman. He's a resident up there, and he's very well known, at least in our fishing community, but he's got a lot of accolades as far as, you know, world records for billfish. He travels all around the world. And he's just got a great story. He's such a good guy. He just loves fishing. It was funny talking to him and learning his family history. He's an heir to John Deere. It's like his great-great-great-grandfather was John Deere. And,
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. You told me that for the first time. I've known Rufus for years, and I never knew that.
Yeah, so I think that kind of helps afford him the ability to do a little bit of what he does, but he's the kind of guy that you just would never know it. You know, he has the ability to travel all around the world and to chase these wonderful game fish, but he's not braggadocious. He doesn't flaunt it. He's just such a good guy that's just eaten up with fishing. So we were able to spend a couple of days together, tell his story, and then we did more of a technical show of Inshore up by us during the mullet run on Topwater show for snook, which, you know, we're trying to tell stories, but I kind of stick to either we're talking about a personality, which your show was more, or we're talking about a technique. You know, a certain way to target a certain species, or maybe destination focused as well. So we kind of try to go around those three things is really what the show has been based on. So we just have those 2 episodes done. I'm going to the Keys in a couple weeks. Do a couple shows in Louisiana, going back to Guatemala. I'm going to go to the Mayan ruins in Guatemala and do a couple episodes there and kind of really get into the culture again like we did last season. But we're still looking, you know, that's, you know, 5 or 6 for 12 that we're going to do. So I'm always looking for guest hosts, stories to tell. You know, people don't realize like, oh, they could be on the show, but, you know, everybody has their own story.
Yeah.
Everybody has a unique story. Not often, you know, do you think it's good enough for other people to want to hear, but, you know, you yourself, you know, I think everybody has something to tell. why they
think you
fish.
do a really great job of getting below the surface of people. That's the one thing I've noticed about this show in particular. And that's the most intriguing part to me, is that your ability to kind of get all the layers of what's going on there, because you feel it when you're out in the water. You don't just think about, I'm hunting, we're going to get a fish, shoot, see scores. That's not, there's more to it than that. It's about how you feel that day. It's about, maybe what you want to accomplish, but it also could be like the weeks that led up to this trip were maybe not easy weeks, and man, I really needed this day, and what does that mean? And it could be anything. So it's the emotion behind it all. You mentioned that mullet run. John here in the corner, we call him John in the corner. So he hit the mullet run. Was it last week or the week before?
Yeah, I've been hitting it for a while. It kind of slowed down now, but I went a couple times last week. Got a couple nice snook out here in Fort Lauderdale.
He's a snook master. He doesn't like.
He calls me a snook master.
Yeah.
It's
funny. It really never kicked off by us. And I saw some of Jeff Maggio's posts and Lunker Dog stuff talking about it wasn't a happy bait year. He called it. He's down on the mullet run, and I think that has something to do with the storms. And we had such dirty water up by us after the hurricane came through that I think a lot of that bait was actually offshore and came around the beaches rather than coming down the beach. The water was so dirty by us, so churned up, and you couldn't even see them in the river. It was so dirty.
Yeah.
So now I'm laid up usually this is the height of it for us. The last couple of weeks of September, the first couple of weeks of October is always when Stewart's going off. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately with this surgery that I just had, I'm kind of laid up during the prime time. But
it shut off though. So
it's funny though. It's not my favorite time to fish. People
really?
Talk about it, and to me, it can be an extremely difficult time to fish, an extremely frustrating time. You have millions of baits in the water, and you're trying to get your one bait eaten.
Yeah.
It's great to go out and see it and to partake in it. It's National Geographic type of stuff, and stuff's getting eaten all around you. But as far as catching wise, it can be extremely tough.
Yeah, especially the right fish. You only have maybe a couple chances throughout the season to get one. Because, like you said, there's so many baits that they're trying to pick. You need to get yours in the right place at the right time. Yeah. Yep.
So we did this show up there by us with just topwater plugs, and we'll just hit high percentage areas. We just hit seawalls or just ambush points, and it's just going from spot to spot to spot. And these are places that these snook are just sitting and waiting for schools of mullet to come by. So if you can be in that right, and most of the show was shot like the first hour after sunrise and an hour before sunset. It was just this magic hour that we talk about when things go off, that the bait would show up and it just go crazy. Snook would be cartwheeling out of the water. And, we have a lot of good locations in Stewart to target these snook. A lot of seawalls and a lot of ambush points. And we have the St. Lucie River, the Indian River. So I think that's probably one of the reasons why we have the best snook fishing, I think, in the state of Florida is up there by us. As far as numbers and quantity and quality, it's an incredible fishery.
I don't have a lot of experience in that area. I wanted to start fishing up there more because I love inshore. I just don't do it nearly enough. I got a friend of mine is Chris Meek, excellent snook fisherman. We were supposed to go up to Jupiter pretty soon. He's got a lot of good spots in there too. But up as far as Jensen and Stewart, I don't think I've really ever fished up that way.
Yeah, it's right where it's as far as the Indian River stops right there. So I always say that this is kind of right where the inshore, the real, in my mind, the kind of inshore waters really start. There is the Loxahatchee and Jupiter, but as far as that St. Lucie River, that's the reason why we have the snook fishing that we do. It's that deeper, darker body of water that holds the heat better in the wintertime, that those snook just migrate up there and they can just sit back there in the wintertime. The water's typically 4 or 5 degrees warmer than the Indian River, and they can just sit down there on those muddy bottoms and just, conserve energy. There's bait for them. They don't have to do a lot. The water's warmer and they can make it through those worst of winters, and it just, those big females are up there. It's a great fishery.
So how is the water quality right now? Obviously a couple of years ago, not so great, but how's it doing now?
It's a lot better. It's a lot better. The the water's obviously murky now because of the storms and churned up, but as far as the freshwater discharges and the quality and the cyanobacteria and the algae blooms that we've had in the past, this year was far better. You know, we went into the wet season at a much lower level of Lake Okeechobee, and I think that's going to be a more of a long-term solution. You know, if we can go in to the summer at 12 feet or 13 feet or 11 feet or 10 feet, you know, you have more storage ability on Lake Okeechobee rather than going in at 14 and as soon as it rains, you got to dump. So we didn't have a super wet summer, but we had more storage capabilities, and we had some local runoff out of our canal, but we didn't have anything out of Lake Okeechobee, which was important for us. I mean, we have a saltwater estuary. People think that, it's St. Lucie River is not a river. St. Lucie River is really a tidal lagoon and an estuary that just is dictated. The salinity is dictated by the amount of runoff. It can handle fresh water for 20 days, 30 days, but once you get past that certain threshold, you know, the oysters die, the bait leaves, and everything begins to suffer. And for so many years in this past decade that we've had just rainy seasons and discharges, and we just suffered so bad. You know, and it's just nice that this year the water was clean. You know, people can get out on the weekends and get to the sandbar, and not only for me, you know, for the fishing, but also economically, locally, it's a huge impact. Mm-hmm. Huge impact. Every boat that goes out to the sandbar, I say this, you know, every boat that goes to the sandbar on the weekends buying fuel. Mm-hmm. And they're buying beer, and they're buying ice and sandwiches, and the families, and then they're taking the boat out, and the boat needs to be serviced, and you know it's
makes for a good community too.
Yeah. If people
what
are
you going to
happy,
do if you're not out there? You're going to be bumming around the land, up to no good.
Yeah, in a couple of years, the sandbars were empty, but this year, nice clean water. People can get out. They can take the kids out there and not be afraid of contracting some kind of rare infection.
Yeah.
And so definitely happy to see cleaner water. And I think I'm not very political, but I think DeSantis is doing a good job.
Well, I was going to bring that up because I talk about him a lot on the show. It's actually probably like one of my dream guests, like to have like Governor DeSantis on, because I really think, I don't know. I know I don't talk a lot of politics on the show. It's actually a policy really not to really get too far into it, but I think the guy's going to be president someday. But, he seems to really have taken the bull by the horns, like right off the bat. But I always love bringing it up to guys that are at ground level with this stuff, like yourself, that to tell me like the real take on it, like from your position, like, so you feel he's doing a good job. I mean,
well, I think he's the first politician that did what he said he was going to do. Mm-hmm. He promised something during the campaign, and I got behind him. Captains for Clean Water was behind him, and I'm a part of that as well. And he did. He delivered on his promises. He came in, he cleared out the South Florida Water Management District Board, was completely revamped, and that spoke accolades to me that, wow, this is like the first month this guy's cleaning house, and the tides have changed. And he continues to deliver on his promises. So, him and Mast is doing
Brian Mast.
Yep. So he's local to Stewart as well, and he has obviously a huge vested interest. I think he lives actually on the St. Lucie River there by us. So he's doing a wonderful job, always introducing bills that are helping with the river and estuaries.
Yeah, we had I know that it was really a big spotlight on that situation a couple of years ago with the big blooms and, with social media, and then it was all over the news, and it's hard not to ignore it when it gets like that. I just hope that people don't forget.
Yeah.
And we stay vigilant, we stay consistent on the whole thing, because Florida is, compared to previous years, we're in pretty good shape right now. Our education system, I think, could be a lot better. I don't even want to say a little better. I think it could be a lot better. But regarding everything else, like economically speaking, we're doing better than we have, in previous years. And I think that is a lot to do with the leadership, like Brian Mast and Governor DeSantis right now. So I think the way he's handling the water situation is not done in a way to where it's going to be, just dumping a lot of money at it, and raising taxes. You know what I mean? He's doing it, I think, in a smart and sensible, economical way.
Yeah, I think it has that scientific approach now, where before there was so many vested interest. I think sugar was so vested, on these boards, and agriculture had such a say where, patients, not patient, but people's safety should come first. That's first and foremost should be the safety of the residents of Florida, and that everything has to go below that. And I think agriculture was put before anything else. Their ability to pull water off of Lake Okeechobee was superior to what harmful effects it had at keeping it at a high level. So I think we're kind of reorganizing how we think about what the priorities are, restructuring that. And I think it's going to take a while, but I mean, like you said, you need to stay aware, active on social media, but I think that was the difference now. I think without social media, this never would have been brought to the attention. Right. We never would have known how bad things were. People were posting daily, oh, look, my backyard, this or that. You need that. So as long as we stay vigilant, and I really think Captains for Clean Water is doing a great job. They're very active politically. Just people need to stay involved.
Yeah, no, I definitely think so. I mean, obviously, this is a big issue for us here at the studio. I mean, the name of the show is Connected by Water. Without clean water and healthy water, I mean, we would be nothing either.
Yeah.
But that's kind of like, we bring on a lot of charitable, organizations and different people. We want everyone to be able to have their voice. We brought on Freedom Fighter Outdoors to talk about taking the veterans fishermen. We brought on Fishing for Muscular Dystrophy to talk about everything that they're doing to raise awareness. And just a variety of different. We talk about Special Olympics and just a lot of different organizations. We like to promote all that, people that are actually doing very good in the community. But if we have a cause here, it's clean water.
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest issue for us, because without clean water, that's because Florida is water. It's all water. It's all about water. Our entire business is based around that water and what it creates and what it produces, be it, fish, be it surfing, be it, paddleboarding, or, just an industry behind it. So
yeah,
I'm really glad to have you on here to be able to kind of put some insight to that. So it's more than just sending it south though, isn't it?
Yeah, there's so many different, pieces, the components of this whole thing that's, I think, has been screwed up over hundreds of years. I think the whole plumbing situation has been messed up, and we do have to send the water. To me, it was always very simple that our estuary is dying because it's too fresh, and Florida Bay is dying because it's too salty. So they're not getting the water, we are getting the water. To me, it was like, okay, it's pretty self-explanatory here, and there's something that stands in the way. I've always thought in my mind, why wouldn't Big Sugar just step up to the plate and say, hey, here's so many thousand acres. Let's make this right. Let's make a flowway. Let's make whatever,
amicable.
Why not just be a part of the solution rather than digging your heels in? But I think they've been so powerful for so long that they just felt like they didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And it was interesting, there's an episode that we did with Rufus. Rufus went to school with the Fanjules, so the brothers. He went to school with them, and he can actually call them on the phone, and he's personally affected as well, because he has a home right on the St. Lucia River, right by the Roosevelt Bridge, right where all the alga blooms wash up on. That was right in his backyard, there, and he's got River Palms Fish Camp. So he was personally affected, and he knows this family, the Sugar family. So it was interesting to hear his take on it. But he's very active in the CCA, which is which is doing their part as well.
It's a great organization.
Yeah, they're doing their part.
We get involved with them as well. Yeah.
So
he went up to DC, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he was part of it.
See, it was a funny story about Rufus, right? A lot of funny stories about Rufus, but because he's very, like you said before, salt of the earth. You know what I mean? There's no, what you're getting with him.
Yeah.
Like every single time. So he calls me up on the Monday. He's supposed to be on the podcast like a couple weeks ago. Called me. He's like, "Oh, I'm not going to be able to make your podcast." I go, "Why?" He goes, "Well, George asked me to be on the show."
I said, "He told me."
I go, "Yeah, I'd skip the podcast too if I were you."
That's right. He
He's like, "I'll come back on another time." I said, "Don't worry about it. Just go on the show."
Yeah. That was funny.
So hope you guys caught a lot of fish, George.
It was funny. The episode that we filmed, we went. It was during the hurricane after Dorian, one that came close by. I don't know which one it was, but
Umberto.
Yes.
Yeah.
The seas were giant, giant. I don't think I've ever been at a St. Lucie inlet with as rough as it was. We measured on the depth sounder when we got offshore at 14-foot swells from top to bottom, and We
14 foot?
14 foot. We got to the inlet.
In your bay boat?
In the Camus, yeah.
Really?
And we got to the inlet and we looked and it was just like breaking straight across. We're like, oh, is this a good idea? And and I sat there and I had to throw it in reverse and wait on it and wait on it and wait on it. And we finally timed a set and we went and it was some of the biggest
You charged
stuff.
at it, huh?
Oh man, we full charged. And I could tell Rufus is like, oh, he was a little nervous, especially about coming in. You know, we timed it right to where we were going to come in on a slack tide rather than a falling tide. It just would have been treacherous, but it wasn't unsafe, but it was definitely sporty. But it was fun to be out there with him and that. The fishing was a little tough. We caught some dolphin, we caught some bonitas and some sharks, but we had a good time.
He didn't bust out the fly rod, did he?
He didn't. It was a little rough.
Yeah.
I think he would have had a little tough time.
It might have been a little tough on a day like that.
But again, it's not about the fish. I mean,
Right.
we caught some fish, but we got to tell the story about Rufus. So I think people will enjoy it. And we went to his house and sat around. He's got a wonderful house and on the river, and he's such a historian about, fishing reels and fishing. He knows so much, and he's a collector, and it's just fun to sit there and pick his brain.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. I mean, I love him to death. You can't. I mean, I think anybody that meets Rufus can't help but love him. But yeah. So how is the? You're with the Camus now.
Yes.
So and from everything I've seen you post up about it, you're just in love with it.
Yeah. So, I was a big supporter of Triton boats because of Earl Bentz. He was the founder of Triton. And I became friends with him, I don't know, a dozen years ago. And he supported Real-Time Florida Sportsman the whole time. And I ran a Triton. But Johnny Morris took over with Bass Pro, and they acquired Triton. Earl stayed on as chairman for years, and then there was a separation there last year. And I thought Earl was going to retire, and he actually retired for about a month and realized that wasn't. Well,
he got bored.
Yeah, he could not be retired. So, he partnered up. He got some guys. He partnered with Michael Peters, the naval architect, and they just went full bore into a new product. And Camus Boats is getting built. They're in the same office when they used to build Triton up in Tennessee.
So that's where they're at, Tennessee?
Yeah, they're up in Tennessee. And they're building a great product. They're building bay boats now, or hybrids, we should call them, 26, 28-foot hybrids.
You have the 26, right?
I do. I have the 26, but I actually started my 28 build this week. So I have a 28 hybrid coming.
Okay, so when you're not using the 26, I'll just...
Well, as soon as the 28 comes, the 26 will be going back. The 26 is actually just kind of a loaner that I've been using to film with. But
Gotcha.
It's a double step bottom, more of a hybrid, family-oriented boat that just kind of does everything well.
Looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a pretty boat. It has pretty lines and
a T-top on there at this time.
Yeah, and actually the 28 has a stand-through tower and a half tower, so I'm excited about that. It gave me a little more height. I would love to be up there when we're sail fishing and just to see those fish come in like they do. I think it's going to be super cool. So I'm excited about that build. We're going to start posting some stuff socially on the build and kind of follow that build for the next 6 weeks or so. So I'm excited about that. I'm just excited to get that new boat.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've been taking a look at it and, just mouthwater and dreaming about it. It's kind of a nice one. It really is, though. I mean, just looking at the lines of it, because I've been on the Triton with you, obviously, but I remember you got that shortly after.
Yeah.
And, it just looks really good. When I heard the whole backstory behind the boat company, and I just was like, wow, that's going to be one of those. It's just kind of going to skip a bunch of levels of other new manufactured boats, I think, right off the bat, just because of who's making it. Yeah,
he has such a heritage in the industry, such a history, such a strong dealer network from the past that, he got to start racing with Mercury. So it was interesting. I went up to Fond du Lac to the Mercury plant. They had a meeting of ambassadors. We went up there. And they have like a history hallway that tells the history of Mercury. And there was imagery up there of Earl Bentz, in his racing days.
Very cool.
Back in the 60s. And it was pretty wild to see. So he has that lineage of proven, boat building. And like you said, he's skipping in front of a lot of people by just having that history in the industry.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's very cool. So, with your hand, I want to talk about something else real quick. I mean, I always find it interesting to where, being in this industry is one thing, but breaking into the industry is another thing, right? So, I mean, we've both been kind of just fishermen for our whole lives, but when you take that to the serious level, and you just start kind of just carving your own path in this business. I mean, it could be a very difficult thing, but you've been filming for a while now. What was the first thing? I always wonder this too about people that have their own shows. Like, what bug enters your mind that's just like, I want to start my own TV show? Because I know a bug entered my mind when we want to start our own podcast, but this is nothing like the operation that you got going on. You have had going on for years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that makes you, I'm going to film this show and then it's going to be a great success and we're going to be,
Well, it's funny. I grew up fishing. That's all I loved to do growing up. I mean, I remember that's what I did. But as I got older and I started thinking about a career, it wasn't the direction I wanted to go. I just didn't think that it was the right thing for me at the time. And it had some negative connotations that I was worried about. So I became an emergency room nurse. I worked at the hospital, and it afforded me the ability to fish a bunch because 3 days a week was full time. So I could fish 4 days a week, and I started guiding. I got my captain's license and started guiding. And then I was guest host on a bunch of shows because Stewart's a wonderful destination. And when you have a good destination, you have people that want to travel there and showcase it. So I was just fortunate enough to be a guest host on a bunch of different shows. But at the same time, I was fortunate enough to have Florida Sportsman magazine based right in Stewart. And I had developed a relationship with those guys.
Oh, they were based out of there.
Yeah, they're based in Stewart. So Blair Wickstrom, the publisher, and his father was the founder of Florida Sportsman, had an idea of creating a web-based show. So this is when the forums were big, and this is really before social media was just starting to go. So Kevin, who's Colorblind Media now, my producer, he was an intern at the magazine, and he was doing their web or something. And he ended up going out on a shoot with them, and he did camera work, but I think they quickly realized his capabilities was far superior on the camera side of it. He had that knack for it. So he had done some stuff, I think, with Florida Sportsman Television or Shallow Water Angler or whatever it was. That was when those shows were kind of going to the wayside. Blair had this idea of creating this web-based show of real-time Florida Sportsman. So the first year, he came to me and asked me, said, listen, is this something you want to do? This would be you and Kevin. And the first year was just Kevin and I jumping in the truck, contacting Florida Sportsman Forum members who were posting reports on the forums. And we would travel to their destination, highlight their fishery, and tell a story. And it was just web-based. It could be 10 minutes, it could be 15 minutes, and really had no, it was very free. You didn't have to worry about commercial breaks. You didn't have to worry about this or that, so it was a year of that. And I think it was almost a year and a half of that. And then I think the magazine was acquired by the network, Kroenke Sports Entertainment, or maybe it was Prime Media at the time, but we had the Sportsman's Channel, the same company that owns the Sportsman's Channel. They were looking for content. So they decided to move the show from the web to national television. And that was, I remember that day when they called me and told me, it was like, oh my God, because I grew up watching Flip Pallet. I grew up, Jose Wahebi, these were my idols. And all of a sudden now I have the ability to do, to be in the same situation. So it was somewhat surreal. And it was a matter, I think, just being in the right place at the right time, really more than anything. I tell people all the time, I'm not a great fisherman. I don't ever, it's because of my fishing prowess. No, I don't think
I disagree.
No, I mean, I really don't think there's much better fishermen out there than me. But I think I worked hard. I think I tell my kids this all the time. You want something bad enough, you go after it. You want to do something bad enough, you make a living at it. If you love something, you can make a living at it, no matter what it is. If you're good at it, you want it more than anybody else, you can make a living at it. And I think just at the time was right for me that I wanted it more than anybody else. And I just would just kind of go after it. And it just worked out. Kevin and I's relationship worked out well. And I think just the approach that we had, and it was funny, right before Jose died, I met him at the IGFA Hall of Fame at some Mercury event. And I went up to him, and this was just a couple months before he died. It was the first time I met him. I went up to him, I was like, hey, I'm starting this fishing show, and what advice could you give me? And he was nice enough to say, he talked to me, but then he messaged me on Instagram or on Facebook or something afterwards. And he said, listen, the best advice I can give to you is just stay true to who you are. Don't change for anybody. Just be who you are, that you're going to like you or they're not. And that meant a lot to me. I just said, listen, I think that's kind of the theme that we've carried through. Like, don't fake it. Things don't always happen the way you want. I'm not perfect. you have to be able to make fun of yourself. I think we've done a good job of that. Just staying real. You know, Jeff Maggio talks about that, real guys, and just being real. It is what it is. It's just fishing. I'm not better than anybody else. We're just telling a story. I'm fortunate enough to do the job that I do, and meet great people and go to great places. But don't ever take it for granted either. So I think that's kind of just stay humble, and stay real, and don't fake it.
I get all warm and fuzzy when I hear you talk like that. No, I mean that because we have a very similar mindset from that respect, because I think we've even said that together before, like, you know, you just gotta really just be cool and do what you do and let the chips fall. I mean, there is no piece of paper on this table. There is no script. There is no, I mean, it's easy when I already know you, but you know, it's like, there's no other way to be in my mind. I mean, that's why I quit my day job of 17 years and just because I just wanted to paint fish. I mean, it just doesn't really get any more complicated than that. Now, it does get more complicated than that on a daily basis, but I think weathering that storm with that kind of mindset is really what helps me at least kind of get through it all, because you can meet some really crappy people along the way that want to take advantage of you, or, you know, see your talent or your motivation and just want to you know, I don't want to say ride the coattails, but maybe just take it from you or use you for a little while and just, you know, scrap you and throw you away. And, you know, and I've had that happen to me. But, you know, enough times to really be discouraging to actually even still do this, you know, but, you know, it's people like you, and a lot of other nice people along the way that are there for support. And I think if you put your energy into those people, that's the support system that you need. It's just to pick and choose the right people. You know,
it's a small industry. It's a very, it seems big, but it's a very small industry, and you never want to burn a bridge in this industry. And the relationships are so important. I really try to focus on that. And that was part of the reason why, you know, I spent 7 or 8 years with Real Time Florida Sportsman, and it was just time for me to go out. I felt as if I had the relationships, and it was time that I could do it. And I mean, I don't know if it's going to be 100% successful. I don't know where I'll be a couple years from now, but now I feel like I'm going to go out on my own terms. Like we're going to try this. We're going to do this. And I can go to the sponsors and I can deliver on what I say. I don't have somebody, a middleman. If I sit across from you at the table at ICAST this year and say I'm going to deliver X, Y, and Z, you know that I'm going to meet you again next year, and I'm going to have to answer if I don't deliver X, Y, and Z. So I take that very personal. I try to you know, under promise and over deliver for everything that we do. Yeah, and it's tough because, you know, we're producing a product, but obviously it's without the sponsors, we couldn't do what we do. And we are not the type that likes to force feed people product, like, or deliver a message. And it can be a challenge sometimes to get that message across without, you know, just, I don't know. We're just trying to do it more in a more organic way. Like, I talk about this all the time. Like, I have sponsors, but yes, I endorse them. They're true to my brands. It's the same brands that you and I both wear. Just I'm these people, we have parallel thoughts, and the companies it just works well together. And I think I had the ability to have great partners, great sponsors, and it makes it a lot easier to do what we do. But it's the relationships. It's, you know, it's developing those relationships with those sponsors and doing what you're saying you're going to do, and helping them out while they help you out. It's a two-way street. Everything that we do, I think, is give or take. And, you know, you want to help somebody just as much as they want to help you. And I think if we can kind of keep that same mindset, you know, I remember in the very beginning, I approached you about just creating a logo for me. You know, I'd seen your work, and I was highly impressed with what you did. And, you know, I was a big fan of yours, and I just said, hey, that was funny that's how it all started. I needed a logo. Yeah.
No, for sure. I mean, it's the organic relationships are the best ones. You know, there's no doubt about it, and they're meaningful. I'm with you. I mean, it's really, we wouldn't be where we are today without you know, the people that we've grown with along the way. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's just there's no other way to say that.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can't do it on your own. Yeah. You can't. And I'm not I'm not rich at all. I don't financially back this myself and do it for an ego thing. I mean, I do it to pay the mortgage. I want to leave something for my children. You know, I want them to be proud. I think the proudest moment that I've ever had is, you know, dropping my kids off at school and their friends think I'm cool. Yeah. My kids don't think I'm cool. They're like, oh, yeah, my dad fishes. But their friends think I'm cool. And I don't think it means a lot to them now, but I think later on, because that's where I would have wanted to been when I was a kid. You know, I want my friends proud of my dad. So it's like, oh, wow, you know. So I want to leave that for them. I want to leave something behind that says, this is what my dad did. He made a difference, and he, you know, people enjoyed watching the show, and I think we're on the right track.
Yeah, well, you are cool, George. So it's my son thinks you're cool. I told Sean, I'm like, oh yeah, Captain George is coming to the show today. Oh, Captain George is coming on. Can I come in? I go, no, buddy. Sorry, you stay home. I'll show you the video.
It's funny. We have a lot of kids that love the show, and you know that's awesome because that's the next generation. You know, they're not the ones buying the rods and reels and and the boats and the motors right now, but they're the ones that are going to be. And you get them, you know, loyal to a brand early on, and it's amazing. They'll follow you and they'll use what you use, and really it's pretty incredible. Yeah,
that's the funnest part. We get a lot of that too, especially with the huge bridge project that just happened. Like at least recently, like a lot of the kids, like, oh, you're the one that painted that bridge, and it's like, yeah, buddy, that's me.
It's cool,
but yeah, it's cool. So, so you I have a question for you about, just switching gears on you here, about jiu-jitsu belts, right? Because you just got your 4th stripe, which obviously is on pause at the moment.
Well, I went last night, but
You did?
Yeah, I just helped do a little teaching and watching.
Not rolling around at all?
No rolling right now. I'll be out for about a month.
A month, yeah. You're a blue belt?
Yeah.
So where is that on the scale of it all?
So it goes white, blue, purple, brown, black.
White, blue, purple, brown, black.
Yeah, in jiu-jitsu, in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, that's what it goes.
Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so usually white and blue are kind of usually your longest belts, or they can be some of your longest belts. So blue is usually one of your longest belts. So I've been training for about 2.5 years, but I go a bunch. I mean, I'll go 5 days a week.
You go that often?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I'm addicted.
I see that. I didn't know you went. I thought, that's the funny thing. I said, Liz, look, he got another stripe on his belt. Right. And she's like, oh, I didn't know he was still doing that. I'm like, yeah, of course he's still doing it. She's like, oh, he's fished all the time. And I'm like, I don't know, maybe he just goes every now and then. But you're going 5 days a week?
Yeah, I go just about every night. And then they'll have 2 classes a night, and I'll go to 2 classes.
You still go to that Jupiter place?
No, I changed. We got a future school of jiu-jitsu in Port St. Lucie. Wonderful, wonderful. And I can't speak highly enough of this place that I go to in Port St. Lucie. The family, Friel is just a Brazilian black belt, and his son Igor. They're just incredible instructors, and just found a wonderful atmosphere where the learning is just incredible. And it's something totally different than fishing.
Right.
Something totally different that challenges you. It challenges your mind. It challenges your body, and it helps kind of level you. Like if you can be on a mat and have a 250-pound guy on top of you trying to kill you, and you can stay calm, I think it helps you in life just deal with things. It's just amazing. And you see that evolution in the beginning when you're a white belt, you want to die, you want to tap out just because you're short of breath because you're so nervous. But over time, you see the black belts. No matter what situation they're in, they're just calm. They're not even short of breath. They're just I'm trying to let it be a lesson in life for me. Calming down, relaxing. Yeah. But I truly enjoyed it. It's so much fun. It's something totally different than fishing. The last thing I want to do when I'm off is go fish. And I don't mean to make that sound bad about fishing.
No, it's true. Are you kidding me? The last thing I want to do when I get home is draw a picture.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? It's the last thing I want to do. Do not put a pencil in my hand. Do not, no. Especially after the 365 project. I don't think I drew for like a month.
Yeah. Take time off.
Yeah. I mean, when that one was over, forget it.
No, it's funny. Everybody asks me more about jiu-jitsu nowadays than they do fishing, so it's kind of funny. I think it's just because it's something so different. I think a lot of people are intrigued by it.
Yeah.
I think it's something I think a lot of people want to do. It's almost like primal, it's to get on a mat and to do that. But it's been a journey and something I look forward to many years to come. I hope I'll be doing it for 15, 20 years from now.
Yeah, it is primal. I mean, fishing and hunting is primal too, but you know,
It
that's the
is.
whole, you know, aspect of that.
It
And
is.
I think that's, we've been asking a question on this show for a while, like, all right, so I want to get your take on this. There's a certain thing that, like a bond you get with someone once you've been fishing with them. And it's kind of a greater bond, I think, or at least in my experiences, than you would get if you just like went out with someone one night, or, you know, you hung out with someone at a wedding, or, you know, but that, like, as far as like one-time experiences go, or even if you like, you go to a football game with like 3 other guys and it's like, all right, cool. You don't bond with them like you do when you're out on the water for a day fishing. You know, because I can look at guys that I fished with once 5 years ago, and when that guy walks back in the room, I'm always like, hey, what's up, man? You know what I mean? We had that day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was cool. But I always wondered why that was. Because what is it about fishing? Is it the power of the ocean? Is it the power of sea? And I think someone brought it up to me, because hunting's probably the same way. I'm not really a hunter, you know, I don't only just gator hunting, but they said, well, it's probably the primal nature of it, man and man, you know. And I said, oh, that's a really good point. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, do you kind of feel that way? Like when you're fishing, now you fish with a lot more people than I do, because it's your job. But do you find that you bond with the people like every time, or is it more fleeting for you?
Well, no, I think it's different with some individuals though too. I think people sometimes are into fishing for different reasons, you know, and if you find probably your buddies are the ones that probably share the most common interests. I mean, I take a lot of clients that maybe sometimes just want to go out and have a good time, but definitely the ones like your friends that you go out with and those that you spend that time on the boat with. I do think it's primal, and I think it's like you said, hunting. I don't have a huge experience in hunting. It's pretty limited, but it's the same exact feeling hunting, sitting in the woods to me as it is fishing. It's just that anticipation of wondering what's going to happen. And I think jiu-jitsu is the same exact way. It's almost like a chess game. You don't know what's going to happen. You're anticipating what's happening, but you're constantly wondering what's, you know, and I've always had a very short attention span. I've always, you know, in school, I think I had like ADHD because I just couldn't focus because I get bored with something. I want to do something different. And to get on a boat and to share that with somebody, that same interest and that same, you know, wondering what's next and, you know, the primal hunting aspect of it, I'm sure that's definitely something to do with it because, you know, millions of years ago, that's what we did. We ran out. We went out there and tried to gather meat together or fish or whatever it was. That's what we did.
Yeah. I mean, and they formed communities around it, you know, that had tribes and their own little cultures. And I think that's based upon that hunter-gatherer aspect.
Yeah. Unfortunately,
I'm getting to the bottom of this, John.
Unfortunately, I don't get to fish with my friends that much anymore. It's amazing. I don't really, I hate to say that. My poor friends don't even, you know, they just beg me to take them fishing, but I spend so much time with the show or guiding that on the weekends or time off, you know, it's like you said, it's kind of the last thing you want to do. I mean, we'll spend some time in the Bahamas. We have close friends that we go to the Bahamas with every summer that we enjoy that experience, take the kids over there and stuff like that. I really enjoy. I really cherish those times. I just love the Bahamas and I love going over there and spending a week or two over there and doing that.
Yeah, I don't ever paint for myself ever, hardly. Now that's something I'm going to change in this new year. Because what I found is I get so saturated and inundated into the studio and dealing with the projects and the clients and, you know, and it's like, it's now to the point where I think it's affecting my creativity, and that's not a good thing when you run an art studio.
You might have to get back on the 365 project.
Yeah, no, I'll do a variation of something a little different, but you see that bill in front of you is like empty.
Yes.
That's mine that I'm going to do for myself one day. And it's been empty for like 5 years.
When you get done with that one, you can do mine.
Yeah. So but if it's tied to a job, I'll do it. That's the thing. You know what I mean? But if it's like just for me, I'm like, I find it very difficult to like just, I'm going to sit and draw.
Yeah.
But I think in the new year, I'm going to have like mandatory sit and draw for me time.
Yeah.
And I think good things will come from that.
It's funny because, I don't mean to say this in a bad way. It's almost like, you take it for granted what you can do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like if I could paint that thing, I'd be on that thing right now. But you do it so often. It's the same thing with me. Maybe I take the fishing for granted and the ability to get out there and spend time on the water. So when you can surround yourself with people that kind of make you realize that how good you have it and the talents that you have and the abilities and the opportunities that you have, I think that helps. That kind of refocuses you. Like, wow, I'm very fortunate to be where I'm at. I'm very fortunate to be able to pick up a paintbrush and paint on that, and maybe that kind of inspires you more. Because I know it does for me. Like another day on the water. Oh, wow, look, there's the manatee. Or, oh, look, there's a snook. Oh, great. But you just have to remember that this is new experience to a lot of people. And to them, it's something so much bigger than it is to me. And I just can't take it for granted. Just like the show, you just can't take it for granted.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point because, and I guess it comes down to also with what I do, support and accolades. And, a lot of people can mistake that for, it's feeding an ego. But I think really, from an artist standpoint, it very well could be keeping you going. That could be the motivation that you need or the support that you needed that day to like kind of cement over all the doubts.
Yeah.
And just lock that down and be like, no, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is the path you're supposed to be taking. Or, it is, you are, fortunate to be able to do this for a living. Okay. See, people do respond to it. Because if no one responded to art, I don't think there'd be a lot of art in the world. Because I think people would do it and get discouraged.
Yeah.
Like, wow, it must look like shit. I'm not going to do it anymore.
It's probably a lot like a fishing show host because there's not a lot of feedback. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, you get some, but you yearn for it. I want to hear positive, negative. You want to hear from the sponsors or what they think or the people that are watching your show. And a lot of times there's just the feedback's not there. And you're just kind of going along wondering, do people enjoy what we're doing? It? Yeah.
You need it.
Yeah.
We're experiencing it with this podcast.
Yeah.
And we're at episode 17. And, obviously our viewership could be higher, but we're just starting out. But a lot of things, and you'll post it up on social media and you're expecting this huge, look, it's awesome, blah, blah, it's great. Just like we would if we were to post one of our paintings. But that's like an instant, everyone sees the painting, everything's great. Oh, yeah, it looks great. Like. But if you put up people now got to stop, take their time, go watch the episode. It's a little effort on their part, and we're starting to navigate those waters and see maybe a little bit about your world, about, what some of the things that you're dealing with. And I can attest, basically, I guess is my point, to saying, yeah, this is a little bit different of an animal that we're used to dealing with because I'm trying to push it and promote it. And it's like maybe a little slower than I expected it to be. But, then every now and then someone will sweep in and be like, man, I watched that episode. It was awesome. I said, and I was like, really? Cool. Thank you. You know what I mean? I thought it was a good episode too, but I'm glad to hear other people, maybe a few people, or at least those who watch it are responding well to it. And I'll get an occasional text from a friend that, hey, I watched everyone. I'm like, oh, wow, you're the one that watched everyone? That's cool. That's
You're
awesome.
One of the 10? All right, awesome.
But yeah, it's a different animal.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it means a lot when people come in and show their support, like a tremendous amount, more than I think they realize. Because you appreciate it, and it's a way to gauge what your work.
Yeah, I think for us, when we do these shows, and then we have guest hosts like yourself, or I did one with Andy Mill, another personality show, and Cameron Kirkconnell. When they come to you and say, "Hey, that was the best show that some of these guys have been on multiple shows. That's the best show I've ever seen," or thank you so much. Even Jeff Maggio, Lunker Dog, said that. He's been on a ton of shows and nobody's ever told that story of who Lunker Dog is, so that's rewarding to me to hear, you speak nicely of it, or Jeff or Cameron, or these people saying, that they were happy to be a part of it, and it turned out better than they thought it was going to turn out.
Yeah, no, and I mean, it really, again, I don't want to bring up my episode again. No, I'm just kidding. No, but the show as a whole, it's a work of art. You know what I mean? I wasn't, and I've posted this many a times calling it that, and it really is. Just from front to back, just right down to the color mapping of the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's just been done really, really well.
Yeah. I think they have a different eye. And I think what's different too, as we talk about Connected by Water, is all my guys are surfers, they're fishermen. Mm-hmm. They get it. They love the water, and that helps. That helps when you're a cameraman out on the water to see things differently, know what to expect from a fish, or just be a surfer and know what to expect from the water. And that makes a huge difference. And all my guys love the water, and I think it shows. And they want to put out a high quality product. They want their name on it, and they spend countless hours in the editing room making things look right and having just that right color, that right lug or whatever they call it, just to make everything look perfect or sound perfect. So just fortunate that, again, like surround yourself with great people and let those great people do what they do best.
Yeah, it shows in the product. And we surround ourselves here, like everyone here pretty much is living around the water. I mean, right, John here is a great angler, fisherman, and even Vandy, she's a tournament angler. She fishes like every single sailfish tournament there is. I mean, so it's cool though, because when she talks to customers, she knows exactly what they're looking for, what they're getting at, and she understands the complaint because, she's had similar experiences with the type of clothing we wear, or she'll understand that, that's not the type of fish that's supposed to go on that shirt, or, that fish is way out of proportion to that, or, she can judge those things. And, right down the way John edits this show, he can actually, with poignant effect, put the right images and edit it the right way.
Right.
To deliver an quality product. So, yeah, it's cool. So what do you have in store, like, for Unfathomed? Like, where do you see things going? Like, have you thought that far ahead, or are you just kind of like just dealing with, like, because I know you said you haven't even filled up the second season yet, but I mean, is that a tough question to ask you?
I probably need to do a better job of setting long-term goals. I think I don't do a good enough job of that. And I think if you don't have them written down and focused on them, you're kind of just drifting along. And maybe that's where I've been for the first year or two. It was just getting that first year done, which was so important to me. Proving to myself that we could do it. It's such a different animal to own a show rather than just host a show. 8 years I spent hosting Real-Time Florida Sportsman. I didn't have to deal with any of the backside of it. I didn't have to deal with contracts and collecting money and paying for airtime and paying for production costs. So now that I have that first year under my belt, I feel much more comfortable about it. I think we've done a good job delivering to the network what we said we're going to deliver, and we have a great airtime coming up in 2020. We have like a 9:30 airtime on Sunday mornings for the Sportsman's Channel, which is a huge improvement for us, and they were fortunate enough to give us that, and I think that kind of speaks to what we've done. So
I was going to say, there you go. That there's your response right there.
Yeah, so that it's getting more and more received, and just I think it's about just you have to stay consistent. You have to keep putting a quality product out there and just keep delivering. But this industry is so hard. The pie is getting divided up amongst so many different people now, where back in the day there was a couple television shows, and now there's hundreds of shows, and there's hundreds of internet people and hundreds of Instagram stars. And I'm not taking anything away from those people, but that dollar has gotten divided up so much smaller. So really, I mean, what we're trying to go, more towards that non-endemic side of it, that, just something not so much in the fisting industry, because really I think our show is a little bit different than other shows. I think we're more of a lifestyle show.
Correct.
I think we're telling a story. So I think we can have the Ford Motor Companies or the Geicos or a liquor company. I think we can speak to those people, because that's our clientele, our viewers are those people. So we're trying to put a product out that the whole family can watch. And I'm just trying to get great sponsors around us that help, obviously help us get there. And so it's just a matter of now finding those non-endemics that can really kind of push us to the next level. And I think that's kind of where the future is, just the non-endemic side of it. Obviously, you still want the fishing stuff in there, the fishing sponsors, but to take it to that next level, that really we're limited in production by budgetary constraints. I obviously would love to go to these wonderful destinations and see all these great places, but at the end of the day, that I got to put 4 guys on an airplane and fly them somewhere, and that comes out of my pocket, and there's just always not the dollars there to do that. So I just want to continue to grow it and have more budget to do cool things and go to cool places and tell cool stories.
Yeah, no, and I think that's why I think that's part of the reason why we get along so well, is because I think we have a very similar scope on what we're trying to do. Where it's like, I paint fish, but we're trying to broaden that horizon a little bit and open up the doors to a little bit more of what'd you say, the endemic
non-endemic, non-endemic stuff. Yeah, trying to open it up.
And just like kind of open up and broaden, what we do here and not just put yourself in such a box. I think boxes are extremely dangerous. And I think people, you rot there and you stay there forever. And, I like growing and I like ever evolving. It's like you touched on it earlier with the whole like ADHD thing where it's like, you constantly want to keep rolling over and doing new things. And so we look at things in a very similar way. I really want to thank you for the support you've given us, the exposure that you've given this studio. It's been extremely valuable and appreciated. And, like you said, without people that, help you along the way, you are definitely one of those people.
I appreciate everything you did for me. I'm just as grateful to you for doing stuff that you've done for me. So it's kind of...
Well, it's truly our pleasure.
Yeah.
So right down even coming here today. If anybody has not had a chance to check out on Unfathomed, it really is a remarkable program. It's definitely, we like things that flip the industry on its ear. And this show definitely does that. It takes a different approach and, really it's not solving problems, but it is, creating solutions in this industry as far as to where things can be and what it can be, what it can do. I appreciate you for putting out a really great product and just being who you are.
I appreciate you being a part of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to close it out today. We're going to say what we've always been saying lately. Like my buddy Mike G says, your ego is not your amigo. Just do your best, let God do the rest. Don't forget to eat, drink, and be local. And remember that no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we're always connected by water. George Gozdz, thank you very much.
Thank you, brother.
All right.